Salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is John Campea, and this is a companion video. Now, what are companion videos? Well, I'm awfully glad that you asked. See, every day on the John Campea Show, Monday through Friday, we take half of the show to take live questions. However, we don't always have enough time to get around to all the live questions, especially over the Christmas holidays, because we had a number of days without shows, and so a lot of the questions got backed up, and we fell behind on them. But that's what companion videos are for. We take those questions we haven't gotten around to, and we start getting caught up on them, because if you sent in those questions, and you had topics for the show, and you supported this channel while you did it, we want to make sure they get answered properly in a video. So that's what we're here to do right now. So let's not waste any time and start getting caught up, shall we? And we're going to start getting caught up with a question from Canon, more like Schmanon writes, "You're a better man than I. I'm still on the boat of if it's canon, it's your own canon, and you don't dare break canon, you MFs. Hey, studios, you made your own rules, now live by them." Now, of course, what Canon, more like Schmanon, is talking about is the fact that, you know, especially when we start looking at things like the DCEU or the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or normally when you're talking about canon, you're talking about Star Wars. Canon basically means this is the true actual history of this franchise. These are the things that happen. These are the truths of this universe, right? And I used to be an incredible stickler for canon. I mean, really not all that long ago. Like, to me, especially in Star Wars, canon is sacred. You do not, once something happens and it is definitively canon, you do not mess with it. You do not retcon it. You do not contradict it. Because if you do, that kind of shakes our understanding of the whole universe that these stories take place in. I have, over the last couple of years, started to soften my stance on it, not because I don't actually think it's a big deal, but it's because more and more these franchises are breaking their own canon a lot of times, some more overtly, some in minor details. And it's just a matter of, well, I can just get upset all the time, or I can just accept the fact that some of them are going to do it. And my kind of attitude of it right now is this: if you're going to break something that has been an understood truth in your universe, and you're doing it in service to the story you're trying to tell. You know, I've always said that story comes first. So if story comes first, that means it's got to come first even over canon. And, you know, let's take an immediate example of that. Wonder Woman 84, right? Our understanding in the DC cinematic universe is Wonder Woman really hasn't been in the public since World War I. She hid herself away from mankind for like 100 years and all this kind of stuff. Well, then we come to Wonder Woman 84, and they clearly are violating that. But it was because they couldn't stick to that with the story they now want to tell with Diana. And again, there used to be a time when I get really upset by that, particularly in Star Wars, and Lucasfilm just breaks canon left, right, and center now, and they don't even care anymore. So I've just decided, why get mad about it every single time? Just, you know what, if you do it and do it effectively, and you do it in service to a story you're trying to tell, then I'll be okay with it. I'm still not happy about it, don't get me wrong, but I might as well be okay with it. Thanks for writing that in, Canon. All right, next up. William Kwan writes in and tips in $20. Thank you, William, for supporting the channel on that level, man. One of two. Hi, John and Rob. And Rob's clearly not here right now. I was one of the few that loved Wonder Woman 84. I definitely see its faults, but I have watched it 3 times, and the part where a fully fueled jet is sitting there, they do mention moments later it's the 4th of July, so maybe there was an air show earlier? 2 of 2. Maybe there was an air show earlier. Granted, it could have been told better with a line of dialogue by the air traffic control like, one of the jets from the air show earlier is moving, and Barbara getting 2 wishes. I think its Lord is the stone. It's kind of up to him on the rules. Not really, because remember, the stone and its rules were forged by the god that made it, not the stone itself. But let's focus on the airplane for a second, right? So Wonder Woman 1984, in case you haven't been watching for the last few days, is a movie I'm very disappointed in. I don't think it's a total train wreck. There are redeemable moments. There are certainly moments that I like, and there are certain elements that I like in the movie. But overall, yeah, I was pretty disappointed in the film. That being said, one of the things that really stood out to me is the jet thing, right? It's just something that they didn't give a lot of thought to. You know, it's like they have in the story, okay, they needed a jet that they could use to fly off to the Mideast. Okay, great. Exactly how are we going to structure it? Don't worry about it. Just whatever. Just get them on the plane and fly them to the Mideast. That's what it kind of feels like. Because first of all, Diana shows up. There's no security, right? This is the thing that kills me about this. There was no security. The only thing there was a lock on the front door of the museum. That's it. There was a lock on the door that became unlocked just by waving one of her pass cards. Okay. There's no security men at the door. There's no patrols going on. There's no cameras on the door. Literally, all you had to do was get in the front door, and from there, just walk back to where a fully fueled, ready to go fighter jet is just sitting there on the tarmac with the, cockpit unlocked, and anybody could just walk. All you had to do was get through the front door. And if you get through the front door, congratulations. They roll out the red carpet, take you right to a fighter jet that you can just hop in, fully fueled, ready to go, no security, no lock cockpit, just jump in and fly away. That with a guy who hasn't flown any piece of technology beyond 1917. That was the other problem with that. I get this Steve is a pilot, but he has never been in a piece of technology like that thing. That's like getting somebody who was a really good typer on an old style typewriter, bring them up to 2020 and ask them to operate, an Excel spreadsheet. What, they know how to type, So there were a lot of little problems like that throughout. Maybe there would have been gas in the jet. But again, the fact that the only thing standing between anybody out in the public walking around and a fully fueled, ready to go fighter jet was being able to get the front door to open. That's it. That again, it's not a huge major thing. It's just one of those things that once again points to the fact that they didn't really think it through a lot. But hey, listen, William, you liked the film. Actually, you really liked it, and that's great. All art is subjective. We all have a different experience with it. You watched the film and it gave you a lot of joy, and that's all that matters, and I'm glad that you did. I'm simply telling you why it didn't work for me. I'm certainly not trying to convince you that you should enjoy it. If you enjoyed it, man, that's awesome, and I'm actually a little bit jealous of you because I wish I had that experience too. Anyway, man, thanks a lot for sending your question. Thanks for supporting the channel on that level, dude. All right, next up, Mr. Gus writes, "Hey, John." Hello there, Mr. Gus. "I'm a fan of your show. Thank you so much. I'm also a fan of Dragon Ball and hated Dragon Ball Evolution movie. Now that Disney owns Fox, which has the Dragon Ball movie rights, do you think we would see a live-action Dragon Ball movie under Disney? Keep up the great job." Yeah, this is a question that comes up every once in a while. And let me just see if I can bring this up here. Let me see if I can get this up here. This is a question that comes in every once in a while. Because Dragon Ball is a very popular IP globally. That doesn't necessarily mean there's an audience for it movie-wise, but it's a very popular global IP. No doubt about it, there totally is. Interesting thing, one of Anne's friends, her sorority sister, Jamie Chung, this is the first movie that we got to see Jamie Chung in. And Jamie's been blowing up lately. Like, not only was she in that X-Men sort of series, The Gifted, she played Blink on that, but then she was just recently in Lovecraft Country. She was amazing in that. And now she's in This Is Us. I mean, Jamie's blowing up right now. Anyway, it was the first thing that Jamie was in that, Anne recognized, hey, well, there's Jamie, my sorority sister, so on and so forth. At any rate, Dragon Ball did not do well. I can't remember exactly. Let me look this up here. Dragon Ball Evolution box office. I know it didn't do well. Okay, worldwide, Dragon Ball Evolution made $58 million. That's not even a good opening weekend. Let's be honest. That's not even a good opening weekend, let alone a good worldwide total. Let me just make sure that was indeed worldwide and not just domestic. I'm pretty sure that was the worldwide number. Yep. Worldwide number, 55.7 million. It only made $9 million domestically. In the US, it only made $9 million. Let me put this into perspective. In a pandemic, and lots of theaters closed, and tons of people not wanting to go to the movie theaters, Wonder Woman made more money on its opening weekend in a pandemic than Dragon Ball did in its total domestic run without a pandemic. Now, put that in perspective. There's simply not a lot of motivation there for Disney to want to make another one. Now, I'm not sitting here telling you whether they should or shouldn't make another one. Don't get me wrong. I'm not sitting here telling you they shouldn't do it. I'm not telling you they should do it. I'm telling you I don't think they will. I think they look at that and they don't see a lot of upside. They don't see a lot of potential in it. Now, there was recently a Dragon Ball movie an animated Dragon Ball movie that for an animated did really quite well. Will that change things? I don't know, maybe. With Disney Plus and a total hunger for content, does a Dragon Ball maybe become attractive to them there? Maybe. But if we're talking about a live action adaptation for like the full theatrical treatment, again, I'm not saying they should or shouldn't. I'm simply saying my guess is they won't, but you never know. And again, with Disney Plus and all that kind of stuff, let's see what happens. I think there are greater possibilities today for it than there were like 2 years ago. So if you're hoping for it, you never know. It's certainly not an impossibility. Thanks for writing that in, Mr. Gus. All right, Brandon writes, "Hey, John. A few months ago, you argued why you think DC is better positioned for success than Marvel." Oh, I did. I remember that very clearly. With the Marvel announcement and trailers recently, and DC moving too fast on making 4 films a year, well, whether they're moving too fast or not is up for debate. That's a matter of opinion. Moving too fast and making 4 films a year, do you still stand by your statement? Why or why not? Okay, so what Brandon is referring to is a couple of months ago, I discussed, especially coming off of DC fandom, I discussed that I kind of believed not that Warner Brothers and DC would be better than Marvel. I simply said, but I really believed that at that moment, with Marvel having hit its crescendo with Endgame, a lot of buzz for the MCU had kind of dissipated because after Endgame happened, that was the climax. And you could tangibly feel in the fan community the enthusiasm overall drop because you just had this big, incredible climax, right? It was done. The 10-year journey had hit its conclusion. But especially coming out of DC fandom, I just kind of felt like DC may or may not do as well or better than the MCU later on, but right now, I felt like DC was in a better position than Marvel was, given the circumstances. I just felt like right now I feel like DC is better positioned for success in the future than the MCU is right now. Not that I didn't think the MCU couldn't have great success moving forward. Of course they will, and of course they can. I just felt with where all the pieces are on the board at that moment, I felt like DC was better positioned. Do I feel that way now today, several months later? No. I don't feel that way anymore. And again, just like before, I wasn't saying that Marvel couldn't be a great success just because I thought DC was a little bit better positioned. I'm not saying now that DC can't have great success just because now I believe Marvel has retaken that spot of being better positioned moving forward, especially coming out of that Disney announcement event with all that damn stuff. The FX stuff, the Hulu stuff, the Pixar stuff, the Star Wars stuff, the MCU stuff. I mean, on and on and on and on. I mean, it was just home run after home run after home run, with some stuff that didn't interest me at all, granted, but a lot of home runs. You compound that with, they just had a very divisive Wonder Woman 84 movie. And divisive means a bunch of people liked it and a bunch of people really hated it. But divisive, very divisive Wonder Woman 84 movie. you still have a lot of question marks up in the air. They still can't seem to get their act together as far as the Flash movie goes, although they have a very gifted director attached to it right now. Let's see what happens with that. They're having now a lot of more off-camera drama with one of their actors, with Ray Fisher. And we'll probably talk about that situation a little bit tomorrow, because that whole drama took another new turn today. So we'll probably discuss that a little bit on the show tomorrow. So right now I'd say I still feel good about the fact that I said a couple of months ago I felt DC was in an even better position than the MCU. Today I think the MCU is in a better position than DC. Not that they're not both still well positioned, but today, I would reverse my position on that today. Let's see how we're feeling 2 months from now. Maybe we find out 3 of the MCU's projects fall through. Maybe, Black Widow comes out in a number of months and it's terrible. And maybe we have to reevaluate everything we are. Maybe we find out The Flash is actually into production and everything's looking great. Maybe, it could change from month to month. But for right now, I do think MCU is probably a little bit better position. So I have changed my position on that right now. All right. Thanks a lot for sending that in, Brandon. Okay. Next up, we've got Jesse, who writes, I also watched The Midnight Sky, George Clooney's new Netflix film, and while I thought the film was beautifully shot, it was gorgeous. It was a beautiful, beautiful film. The cinematography was gorgeous in it. The narrative tended to drag, and no spoilers, it ends with a twist that once I look back on, I really didn't feel made a lot of sense. I'm with you. And again, I won't go into spoilers on it either. And I was very fascinated by this movie. Number one, because I am a big George Clooney fan. And, he was directing this. I thought the trailers looked really interesting. It was part space survival, part natural disaster movie. That's what the trailers made it look out to be. And, just all the pieces of the puzzle seemed to be there. So Ann and I sat down and watched it the day it came out. And awkwardly paced. I find myself very frustrated too by, look, you guys know from the trailer, some kind of disaster has befallen Earth, right? Earth has endured some kind of disaster. They never tell you what it is. And listen, I'm not one of these guys that thinks a movie has to answer every single question. It's a good thing to have some mystery somewhere. But when something is such a pivotal part of your story, the disaster that's befalling Earth, and therefore you got to get warning to these astronauts not to come home. That disaster is a pivotal part of your story. To not actually tell the audience then something that's such a key component of the narrative, that just became frustrating. And so by the time the movie ended, I was like really frustrated that they didn't even tell us what this thing was. It could have helped to give us a little bit more context. But you're right, there is a bit of a twist at the end. And I agree with you 1000%. The more I reflected on it, the twist really didn't make much sense. It creates a lot of contradictions physically with some things that happened earlier. And overall, look, I didn't hate Midnight Sky. Didn't hate the movie. Not at all. And it is an absolutely gorgeous piece of art to watch. I mean, it's just beautifully composed, but I felt myself pretty unsatisfied at the end of it. I did. I was hoping for a little bit better. All right, next up. Initial D's writes and tips in $20. Thank you, Initial D's, man. I appreciate that. Hey, John. I bought your documentary on Amazon to maximize profits. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. It was great. Very informative and succinct. I wish it was longer. I predict it will get you an Oscar or at least a nomination. It will not be nominated for an Oscar, but thank you for your optimism. I appreciate that. Speaking of, please check out my tweet to you and Rob when you get a chance. I will try. I get a lot of tweets, so I will definitely try to go and try. Now, shameless plug part of the show, since initially brings up my documentary, of course. I do have a documentary out now that we worked on. It's about movie trailers. It is called Movie Trailers: A Love Story, and it is available worldwide, wherever you live, at vimeo.com/on-demand/movie trailers. And you can just go there and just watch the trailer for it. If you want to see the trailer to my documentary about trailers, you can just go there. Or if you live in the US or the UK, the other option is you can actually watch it on Amazon. So just go to Amazon and search for Movie Trailers: A Love Story, and you should be able to find it there. That concludes my plug for now. Thank you, Initial D's, for giving me the opportunity. And I mean, of course it's a dream. Whenever anybody is making a movie, you are already writing your Oscar acceptance speech in your head, right? My movie is getting nominated for no Oscars, but I love our documentary, and the feedback we've been getting from the documentary has been amazing. And thank you so much for checking it out and watching. I'm glad you enjoyed it, and I hope the rest of you do as well. All right, thanks again for that initial. I appreciate that, man. All right, next up, we got an anonymous viewer writes, I would love Lars Mikkelsen as Thrawn in live action, based on not only his existing performance as Thrawn, but also as the villain of Sherlock Season 3 and Petrov in House of Cards. Beyond looking like him and being the voice, he's an excellent actor. Well, it's good to know, but let's be honest here. The reason why most people say, who do you think should play Grand Admiral Thrawn? They say Lars Mikkelsen is because he did the voice in the animated stuff. That's why people say him. I'm not familiar enough with his body of work. I've watched House of Cards. I can't remember who he played in there, and I've never watched Sherlock, so I don't know. I don't have a large enough sample size of him as an actor to know, but maybe it can work, right? Maybe it works. You got Katie Sackhoff, who was the voice of Bo-Katan in the animated thing. She also happens to be an excellent actress, and so they brought her in. At the same time, you have Ashley Eckstein, I'm never quite sure how to pronounce her last name, but who has done the voice of Ahsoka Tano forever, and she's known by all the fans as Ahsoka, but they didn't use her to play the live-action version of her. They went out and got Rosario Dawson, who did a fantastic job at it. So sometimes it's something they'll do, sometimes it's not. Depends on the given situation. I find it's best not to worry about it, because the way they're going to write Thrawn for the live action thing, they need to get somebody who best fits the way they write him for live action. And that might not be Lars Mikkelsen. Maybe it will. And you might say, well, John, what do you mean how they write him? I mean, they've already done them. Yeah, but if you read the canon Thrawn novels that are out right now, the character of Thrawn is portrayed very differently in the books than he is in the animated show. Like, very differently. So I can only assume that if they do a live action series, which they're going to do, and they're bringing in Thrawn, which it appears to be obviously what they're going to do, that they're going to write it their own way. And then once they understand how their Thrawn is going to look, and what his characteristics are going to be like, and his mannerisms are going to be like, and how this particular Thrawn carries himself, what his code of honor is, what his moral lines are, then they'll go about the business of deciding who's the best fit as an actor for this particular incarnation of Thrawn. And it may very well not be Lars Mikkelsen at all. Or maybe, and Claus Ashford hate Christian, and to be honest, even though it would have meant Earth's doom, I kind of been hoping for her death. Here's the thing, I am now all caught up. I just watched episode 5. Yes, I just watched episode 5 of this season. Amos continues to be one of my absolute favorite character. I also love, I think Kristen that's the, hold on a second, Expanse, Chris, let me just make sure. Yeah, are you kidding? The former president of the UN, Christian, I'm going to butcher her name, so let me see if I can bring this up here. We can look at her name. Kristen Avasarala. I'm sure I've never said her name right. President of the UN. Other than Amos, she's my favorite character of the show. Other than Amos, she's my absolute favorite character of this show, man. I love her. I do. With all of her flaws and all of her weaknesses and all of her problems, I totally dig this character a lot. Every moment she's on screen, how a character's dialogue is written is key to me, and her dialogue is the best written dialogue in the show. And I'm a big, big fan of this character, man. I gotta say. But anyway, I'm loving this season so far. Season 3, or episode 3 of this season had like one of the most terrific endings of an episode like ever. And I'm loving this season so far, man. I really am. All right. Let's see. Yubi wow writes, Dark Trooper sees Luke fire at target. Rebel Soldier sees Darth Vader. Oh my God, I'm never going to see my child again. I'm never going to kiss my wife again. Our lives are over and there's absolutely nothing we can do about it. I love you all. Bye forever. Now this is clearly a follow-up to a video I put up the other day, because somebody had written in and asked me, now that we have this incredible, amazing Luke scene in Mandalorian season 2, episode 8, how does it compare to the Vader scene? Which one is better? The Vader scene in Rogue One or the Luke scene in Mandalorian? And I've gone back and forth on it, but I made a video about, I actually fall on the side of the Vader scene in Rogue One. They're both spectacular. They're both spectacular scenes. But if I fall on the side of Vader in Rogue One, specifically because of that, there is a horror element to it. Yeah, Luke was going through, look, all these scenes are like Jedi Force users cutting through cannon fodder. Whether they're dark troopers or whether they're whatever. They're just cannon fodder. And they're both awesome. But the difference is in the Vader scene, there was another level to the emotion in it because there was literal horror in it. It was these men coming to the realization that they are trapped in that hallway with their death, with the Dark Lord of the Sith. And when the breathing cracks out and the lightsaber turns on, and just that one shot of the dude standing at the window, pounding, begging people, help us, help us. And the fear and the terror, it elevates what's going on. Again, not to take away anything that was happening in the Luke scene. The Luke scene is amazing, but he was, taking out very dangerous trash cans, right? And by the way, but the best shot in all of them wasn't even the Vader holding the guy against the ceiling and then cutting him in half at the ceiling. The best one, though, to me is Luke with the last Dark Trooper and just not even using his lightsaber. He could have just cut him in half real quick and easy, but he just reached out his hand and crushed him. Oh, it's so cool. But yeah, for me, I got to give the slight edge to the Vader scene because of that, the real humanity in it, the horror, the emotion, the stakes. Those were expensive trash cans being killed in the Luke scene. It was human life that was being taken. That such a good scene, man. Such a good, but they're both awesome. All right. Othello writes, and it tips in like $20. Thank you, Othello. Appreciate that, man. What's up, John? I feel like one of the most interesting film theories out there is the Pixar Theory. Not sure if you've heard it, but it states that every single Pixar movie exists within the same universe. Do you agree or think it's just BS? I would say neither. I don't agree with it. I don't think John Lasseter and Andy and Peter and all those guys there, I don't think they had this grandmaster plan that all of this happens within the same realm in reality. I don't think that was ever their plan. But do I think it's all BS? Well, that's an extreme. I don't think that's what they're doing, and I don't think that's what they have done. But there are certainly ways you could look at it and draw up comparisons and draw up ways that you could say it's that, even if it was never the original intention of Pixar. So at the end of the day, I don't believe in the theory myself, but it's certainly fun to think about. And I've seen some people come up with very elaborate connecting dots about the Pixar world that is really engaging and really fun. Again, I still don't believe that was ever the intention of the creators, but it's kind of fun. So no, I don't believe in it, but I don't think it's BS either, right? So who knows? Maybe they decide to do something with it later on. Anyway, great question. And I love Pixar, and Soul is a great addition to the Pixar lineup. Not my top 3 or 4 favorite Pixar films of all time, but a very excellent, worthy addition to the Pixar lineup. It's if you haven't seen Soul yet, guys, I do recommend it, and I recommend it pretty highly. Thanks for that, Othello. All right, next up, Chris writes, hey, John, love all that you do. Thank you so much, Chris. Appreciate that. Just wanted to say how much I appreciate you and your show, and hearing you talk the other day about Schnepp really struck a chord with me. I didn't know John like you guys did, but I wish I did. He really was a true hero. Well, he was, when Schnepp died, I just remember being shocked because when I first heard, I'd heard, John's sick, right? That was the first thing I can't remember if I was talking to Dennis or I was talking to Harloff or something, but it was, it's just kind of Schnepp came up and passed. Oh yeah, Schnepp's been sick and whatever. Okay. Yeah, cool. And then I heard really what happened, and it was tough because I got told, I had a chance to get down to the hospital and say goodbye and be down there. And I was told probably a week before that he was indeed not going to make it. And it was an awkward week knowing that and not saying anything to my audience or whatever, like people who were really rooting for John and hoping for him and all that kind of stuff. And that was really tough. And the handful of us who did know about it, we would talk amongst ourselves. And Robert Meyer Burnett was one of the other ones who knew. And I remember the day it became official was we were at Comic-Con. I was doing my Masters of the Web panel that, John Schnepp had been on several of my Masters of the Web panels with me. But I was doing my Masters of the Web panel and Rob was there as well. And when we came out of our Masters of the panel at Comic-Con that we just finished doing, and we stood outside and we were talking to a lot of people who had come to the panel, and we check our phones because we had our phones off, obviously, during the panel. We check our phones and got the notice that it's now public, that John, it's official. John had officially passed away. And, I said this the other day on the show. What made John Schnepp so special when it comes to, this online punditry thing was Schnepp was a very rare combination of outrageous, larger-than-life personality in combination with a walking encyclopedic knowledge of the industry. And there are several people that have a lot of knowledge about the industry. And I know several people that have these magnetic, incredible, larger-than-life personalities. But the combination of those two, to the degree that they were combined in the King of the Sweaties, was unique. It was unique. And I believe that's why I said the day that he died that the entire fandom has lost a vital, vital piece of the fandom's beating heart. That we had lost, as a community of fans, we just lost somebody who was the best of us. A consummate professional who was also a consummate geeky, nerdy fanboy, part professor, part court jester. I just think the online space is poorer for him not being here any longer. I think the online space is poorer for him not being here any longer. And that is a truism. All right. Anyway, thanks for writing that in, Chris. Really appreciate that, man. All right. Next up. Chris also writes, hey, John, just wanted to follow up and ask if you've seen I Am Heath Ledger. I have not, as a matter of fact. I mean, a lot of stuff going on, the house, renovations, all that kind of stuff. But if not, no worries. Hope you had a Merry Christmas. Also, I do plan on watching your documentary this week, so I'll let you know soon what my thoughts are. Well, thank you for that, Chris. I appreciate that. No, I Am Heath Ledger is it's one of those things where I have not heard anybody say anything negative about it yet. So it is one I do want to get around to sit down and watching. And unfortunately, I haven't had the opportunity to do so yet, but I am looking forward to it a great deal. So thanks for keep reminding me of it, Chris. I appreciate that, man. All right. Alex George writes, I never got why I had the opinion I did, but your answer about Vader versus Luke hallway scene was perfect. Well, thank you, man. I appreciate that. Do you think you can have an intimidating villain scene that is as compelling without a horror tone, or is that ideal to get that point across? It's hard, man. It's hard because, part of the thing about a great villain is they emote a sense of dread. Dread is something that is kind of like a naturally occurring feeling in us that comes from within. But you get the odd character like Vader who can actually emote that dread and impose that dread onto you and then elicit an even greater dread from the depths of your heart. And that was played out so perfectly. Can it be done without a horror element? Yes, it can. And I'm sure there have been some examples if I stop the video and sit and think about it for about 10 minutes. I'm sure I can come up with some, but oh man, the horror is the natural flow of that sort of intimidation and that sort of dread. The horror element is just, I think, kind of a natural part of that process. So could it be done? I'm sure it can, and I'm sure it has. But the way they did that, though, was very, very special. Thanks for that, Alex. Appreciate that, man. All right, Chris writes, "Hey, John, how far in the future do you think it'll be until we see another Justice League film? Whether a sequel or a reboot, when? The Justice League is my favorite superhero team due to growing up on the Justice League animated series, and I wish we could have a good Justice League film." All right, thanks for sending that in, man. Listen, man, it's hard to say. Because right now, I don't even know when we're getting that Flash movie. And there's a lot of theories about how Flash is going to kind of reset everything. I don't know that I buy into those theories, but it's a possibility. That's something that's on the table. Could happen. Right now, we don't even know when that's coming. We've got the Batman coming, but of course, that Batman movie is not associated with the DCEU, and so therefore it doesn't really give us any sense or indication or idea about when we could possibly get a full proper Justice League again. So there's that problem. So yeah, man, it's tough to say. I don't see us getting another Justice League movie before 2024. Now, that would mean that probably by the end of 2021, beginning of 2022, we hear about a Justice League movie being announced. Then you take a couple of years to actually pre-production, production, post-production, get it out in theaters or on HBO Max, whatever the situation is going to be like in 2024. I have no idea right now. But my thought right now is we probably won't see another Justice League prior to 2024. And, listen, I know a lot of people disagree with me, and that's fine. But there was a plan before. There was a plan in place to start the DCEU, and there's a script that got out online. You can go find it. To start the DCEU, completely the opposite of the way the MCU did, where the MCU did solo film, solo film, solo film, solo film, Avengers. There was a plan in place and a movie written, and they were going to do it, that was just going to start with a Justice League movie. Just start with the full Justice League. You know what? I think that could have worked. I really do think that could have worked. And we'll see. Right now, I don't know that they have a total clear path at the moment, but we'll find out soon enough. But again, my guess, and only a guess, for all we know, they could announce a Justice League movie tomorrow. My guess right now is we will not lay our eyes on a completed Justice League film until minimum 2024. But that's only a guess. Let's see how that kind of turns out. But I'll look forward to that day as well, Chris. Thanks for sharing that, dude. All right, next up. Mikey Roberts Meyer Burnett writes, "John, I usually agree with you. That's a wise man. But I disagree that Rian Johnson somehow took a harder route in his approach to The Last Jedi. Sometimes it's hard to do what seems obvious or safe. I see this often. Directors get too creative and losing the heart of the story." Listen, no, but here's the problem, Mikey. You didn't just argue against my point. You just agreed with my point. You're arguing about what can be more effective, the easier, safer route, or the harder, more challenging route. And you're right, quite often, the safer, more obvious route will yield better results and more consistently good results. Hence, that's why they call it safe, because that's the most consistent thing that gets success. So that's the safer path. And there's nothing wrong with that. Some of my all-time favorite movies have taken very safe paths to get from point A to point B, and I love them. So you're absolutely right. Sometimes that is the more effective way. But yeah, I mean, what we as film fans, though, will often cry out for our directors to not do the easy thing, to do something radically different, to take chances. This is what we as film fans love to tell directors. We want you to take chances. But then when they take chances, we just slaughter them for taking chances. And like myself, as a film fan, the approach I try to take, and I'm sure I fail at this, but the approach I try to take as a film fan is when I see a director try something very different, something really challenging, something outside the box, something unexpected. You know, things we as film fans keep telling directors we want them to do. That when they do that and it fails and it doesn't work, to be able to say, that failed, it didn't work, the movie didn't work, but hey, good attempt. At least you tried something different. At least you tried something new. At least you tried something out of the box and something creative in trying to bring something to us. We'll tell you it didn't work, but hey, at least you tried, you know? But unfortunately, what we as film fans, and I'm sure I've failed at this too, what we as film fans often fail at is that, hey, you directors, do something different. Do something challenging. Break outside the mold. And then they do, and if the movie doesn't work out well, you suck. How dare you, you know? So we tell them, do something new. But then we also yell at them, don't you dare do anything new. And, you know, it just is what it is. Listen, there's a movie that I truly, truly, truly loathe and hate. And that was Michael Fassbender's Assassin's Creed, right? Truly hate that film. I thought it was terrible. But I don't bear any malice towards the director. The director tried his best. I keep forgetting. He's worked with Fassbender before. He did that Shakespearean thing. Hold on a second. Let me just see if I can bring it up here, because I hate the fact that I'm freezing on the director's name. I think it was Justin something or other. Hold on a second. Justin Kurzel, who not only directed Michael Fassbender in Assassin's Creed, he also directed him in Macbeth. That was the other one he did too. He did Macbeth. And listen, it's not like, man, that guy sucks. He hated the fans of Assassin's Creed. He disrespected Assassin's Creed. No, listen, he tried his best to make a great movie. He made a movie he thought would bring joy to people, and it didn't, and it was bad. But hey, you know what? Pick yourself up, dust yourself off, try again, you know, sort of thing. But we as fans, we don't do that a lot. And I'm, like I said, I'm sure I'm sitting here preaching a great ideal, but I'm sure I've kind of probably done that too. I think all of us as fans have, but there's that. But there is a difference between getting a great result. Listen, Rian Johnson could have easily, the easiest thing in the world for Rian Johnson's movie, and maybe it would have turned out to be more effective and better, but the easiest thing is to do, hey, you know what? I heard this Campea guy on his AMC show basically jumping up and down in a chair saying how he's going to piss himself with joy and elation if he sees Luke Skywalker with two troops chewing entire squads of stormtroopers and Luke Skywalker just cutting them down with lightsaber and blow up. That's the easy. Everybody knows to do that. Everybody knows to do that. And that's what they did in Mandalorian. It's easy. Luke Skywalker shows up, wrecks shop with lightsabers. It's the easiest thing. It's what everybody had in their mind. It's what I had on my mind. Everybody. So I appreciated that Rian Johnson tried to do something really different, especially after The Force Awakens, which I loved Force Awakens. I loved that movie. I did not love The Last Jedi. There are elements of it I loved, but I have some issues with The Last Jedi. But still, I love The Force Awakens, but one of the criticisms that The Force Awakens got a lot out of was it was too much the same. It was too safe. It was too safe. We heard that 1,000 times. It was too safe. It was too similar. It was just kind of, you know, Star Wars A New Hope redux. You know, that was one of the big, even though the film was incredibly popular, very successful, still the highest grossing box office film of all time in the United States. Yes, even more than Endgame. But the one big criticism about it was too safe, too much the same, blah, blah, blah. So then along comes Rian Johnson, who is a terrific director. And he said, okay, I hear the fans. They want something different. They want something bold. So we're going to go character driven. We're going to get into the deep pathos of some of these characters. We're going to go in a totally different direction. And it's okay if it didn't work for you. You know, it's okay if you hated the film. It's okay. I just think the type of response that people like Kelly Marie Tran or Rian Johnson himself or whatever then got, that's not justifiable. It's not justifiable, but this is kind of my take on it. I mean, like, listen, I hated The Rise of Skywalker. Hated it. But I'm not dragging J.J. Abrams over the coals for it. Look, he tried. I didn't like what he did. It ended up being a miserable viewing experience for me. I totally don't like that movie. But, I'm not suddenly going to say, well, J.J.'s this. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is what it is. All right, anyway. Next up. Mikey Roberts Meyer Burnett also writes, 2 of 2. I didn't know it was 2. In my opinion, Ryan was trying so hard to blaze new trails that he forgot about the one that had already been blazed. I don't have an issue with Ryan's chosen story, but it wasn't this daring, brave, and unsafe choice. Oh, it absolutely was. Sometimes it's hard to do what's obvious. It was a daring, brave, and unsafe choice. It absolutely was. You just said it yourself. It really was. You just said in the first, Ryan was right. He was blazing new trails. But yeah, you're right. Sometimes the more obvious one can be the more effective one. I mean, look at Mandalorian season finale of season 2. That was an obvious thing to do. And look how beautifully effective it was. Yeah, sometimes the right thing to do is the trail that's already been blazed, is to follow the trail that's already in the grass. Sometimes the safe choice is absolutely the right choice. There's a reason it's the safe choice, because it's the one that will safely work. But, Ryan did try to do something completely different. He tried to do something completely wild. He tried to make something that people would love, and a lot of people didn't. The Last Jedi is a very divisive film. It's a very divisive film. But, it is what it is. All right, next up. Ryan Lohner writes, Netflix animated the Fast and the Furious spinoff just released its 3rd season, and the show is definitely worth checking out. Really? They're the first person I've heard say that. I know a few, not a lot, but I've heard a few people talking about it. They say it's pretty awful. Anyway, a bit kiddie on occasion. That's exactly what I've heard. But if you could muscle through the first season of Airbender, it should be no problem. Yeah, I'll be honest with you, Ryan. I have zero interest in that show. I have no interest. There's too many really great shows out there that have achieved certain classic status already that I still haven't gotten around to watching to. I got to confess to you, the Fast and the Furious animated thing is definitely not one of them. Now, wait a second. If I'm not mistaken, let me just see if I can find this damn thing. It's Fast and Furious Spy Racers, right? That's the name of it. And you know what? I think I've got it wrong. I was thinking Tim. Oh no, it is. This is the guy from Voltron. Okay, so Tim Hedrick, who's like one of the runners of the show, he was also one of the writers. And I don't know if he was one of the showrunners or not, but of the recent Netflix Voltron, which also had some things going for it. But yeah, I'd be lying to you if I said. But I'd be curious, guys. Ryan is saying he enjoys this thing. Are there others among you that have seen it and actually like it? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Jump into the comments section and back Ryan up if you want. I personally don't have any interest in seeing it, but then again, I had no interest in watching the animated Harley Quinn show, and now it's like one of my favorite things on TV. All right, thanks for the recommendation, Ryan. Next up, Suthius writes, hey guys, are we sure that Robert Rodriguez being a part of Favreau and Filoni's team is a good thing? Wouldn't it be too many cooks in the kitchen? I mean, he is director and producer of all the Spy Kids movies. I don't think he's all that great. Well, I mean, look, Robert Rodriguez is a guy that to me, I'm always a little bit nervous because he is a true definition of a hit and miss director, right? And by being that, by being hit and miss, that means when he hits, I mean, he hits hard and he hits well. When he knocks it out of the park, he really knocks it out of the park. Unfortunately, when he misses, he also swings and misses badly. Alita Battle Angel didn't work for everybody. I had fun with Alita Battle Angel. I'm not going to lie to you. I thought it was pretty fun. Machete Kills, I thought was just awful, like absolutely awful. Frank Miller's A Dame to Kill For, I thought that was bad as well. The first Machete I didn't love either. Planet Terror, it's weird. Robert Rodriguez and Quentin Tarantino do the Grindhouse thing together. There's Death Car, what was the name of Tarantino's half of it? I think Death Race. I can't remember. It wasn't Death Race. It was, I don't know. I'll go with Death Car for now. I can't remember. But the other half of it was Planet Terror. If you had asked me before seeing it to put money on which director's half of Grindhouse would be better, obviously I would have put all my money on Quentin Tarantino's. But I thought Robert Rodriguez's Planet Terror was infinitely better. I thought it was infinitely better. I loved his Planet Terror. I thought it was great. Then obviously there's the original Sin City. I mean, again, the Once Upon a Time in Mexico. Listen, he is a little hit and miss, yes, but he is capable of knocking it out of the park. He is absolutely capable of knocking it out of the park. Now, as far as there being too many cooks in the kitchen, make no mistake about this. There is one chef in the kitchen and several sous chefs. The chef, and I am doing the pun on purpose, but the chef is Jon Favreau. He is in charge. This is his thing, right? He has Dave Filoni along for the ride, who's made incredible contributions. Absolutely. You know, he's going to bring it up, but make no mistake about it. This is John. He is the guy in charge, answering only to Kathy Kennedy. That's it. But Kathy Kennedy has given Favreau the keys to that part of the kingdom. And so don't worry, because that's like saying, well, Mandalorian, were there too many, cooks in the kitchen? You had Rick Famuyiwa in there. You had Bryce Dallas Howard in there. You had Taika Waititi in there. You had Dave Filoni in there and Jon Favreau. No. It was Jon Favreau's show. It's Jon Favreau's ship. He's got a great number one in Dave Filoni working with him, but don't worry about it being too many cooks in the kitchen. Favreau knows how to do this. He will manage it, and he's going to have great, talented people working with them, and they're going to deliver some great stuff. And where they are weak, Jon Favreau will make up for it. Dave Filoni, this is the thing that I have never been more impressed with the dude and wanted to cheer for dude more than when I saw Dave Filoni in I think it was episode 1 of the Mandalorian behind the scenes documentary series last year. And the first thing Dave Filoni says, they show him on set of his first directing thing on set of Mandalorian. He's never directed anything live action before. He's never been in a director's chair on an actual real set. And Dave Filoni could have been, oh yeah, I got this. I'm Dave Filoni. I got this. That's not what he did. He looked at the camera, a little bit of fear in his eyes. He goes, I have no idea what I'm doing. I have no idea what I'm doing. Thank goodness I got Jon Favreau here. That to me said, Dave Filoni's a rare type of guy in this business that has that kind of attitude. And people who have that type of attitude have no limits to their potential. Not because he was being humble, but because he's being self-aware. There are things I'm not good at and things I don't know yet, and I need to learn. A guy with that kind of attitude, there's a lot of things I don't know and I need to learn. He has no limits to how good he can be. And that's why I'm very excited to see where Dave Filoni goes. And that's why with Robert Rodriguez coming on, yeah, he's a bit hit and miss, but he's got Jon Favreau standing over his shoulder. He's got Favreau there. And so, and it's the same is true with anybody else they bring. Listen, we just saw Carl Weathers direct a thing like that, right? Yeah. Has he ever done a big sci-fi direction? No, but he had Jon Favreau there. So it's all good. I wouldn't worry about it. All right. Blake writes, my kids have a similar reaction to Mandalorian that I had to Star Wars when I was a kid. They play with the figures and walk around humming the themes. I hope you didn't get them a Razor Crest figure, the Razor Crest ship, just saying. They play with the figures and walk around humming the themes. Oh, and what a theme. I could play that theme all day on my coming out of my speakers. All right. They play with the figures, they walk around humming the themes. It makes it even more fun for me. Congrats on the new house. Really happy for you guys. And Happy New Year. Well, listen, Blake, here's raising a toast to you, my friend. Clearly parenting your kids right. Clearly parenting your kids right, man. So good on you. And yeah, listen, I got that same feeling. I constantly, at least every other day, I throw open YouTube and I just go to Mandalorian theme and I just play that damn theme. Whether it's the proper theme or somebody's cover of it. There's this one of this acoustic guitarist dude just playing the whole thing on his acoustic guitar. Oh, it blows my mind. It's so good. I love listening to that crap. All right, let's see. Let's keep going on here. Next up, James L.H. writes, hey, John, I know you in particular looked forward to a new season of Downton Abbey or The Crown. Or should I say Anne? Yeah, Anne really looks forward to those things. So that you got her. So has or will Anne be watching Bridgerton? Having just watched it, it's the one big difference came to mind is you're saying Bring on the Filthy is very appropriate. Anne, as a matter of fact, it's funny you asked that question. A little while ago, before I started doing the show, Anne and I went for a long walk, as we do every day. We took our dogs out for a long walk. And when I went in to get her from her office in our place here, she was just watching, because she works while having one of her monitors. She's got a 3-monitor setup as well, but one of her monitors, she's got like Netflix running, and she was just finishing off the final season finale of Bridgerton. So yes, she has watched it. It's an interesting concept to me. I sat in on about half of one episode. She explained the concept of the show to me. It sounds very interesting. I heard it's a cross between Gossip Girl and 50 Shades of Grey, that there is a lot of filthy in the show. But I'm also kind of a sucker for period pieces, stuff like that. I know Anne says she's really liking it. I might have to check it out at some point. Anyway, thanks for sharing that, James LH. All right, Scott Brown writes, besides Man of Steel, which is fantastic, the DCEU movies have been anywhere from terrible to just okay. If DC is going to put all this new material out and succeed, they need consistency. Absolutely agree. Because their quality and tone have been all over the place. I don't disagree with you, but I will say this. I think since Walter Hamada became in charge, you've seen the ship steady a little bit over there, right? Because while there have been some misses, Birds of Prey, Wonder Woman 84, while there have been some misses, there's been some great triumphs. I think Shazam is utterly fantastic. I love Shazam. That movie's great. We had Joker, which won Academy Awards, made over $1 billion. We had Aquaman, a movie that a good majority of critics and audiences really enjoyed. I had a lot of fun with it, and it also made over $1 billion. Something I never thought it would do. I knew it would be a hit, but I never, like I said all the time, this movie will be a hit. It'll make a lot of money, but I never thought it would make $1 billion. Yeah, I even remember this one mailbag show I did, and somebody, John, do you think it's possible that Aquaman can make $1 billion? And I'm like, guffaw! Don't be silly. It'll be successful. It'll make money. Be happy with that. Aquaman. If Justice League can't make $1 billion, if a Superman movie can't make $1 billion, if Batman versus Superman can't make $1 billion, ain't no little fish man Aquaman's gonna make $1 billion. Well, look what happened. Made $1 billion. In the Walter Hamada era, their batting average has gone up considerably, like a lot. Is it still pretty ambitious to say we're going to put out up to 4 theatrical films a year and 2 straight to HBO Max movies per year? And on top of that, do some television series, and it's all going to be tied into the same reality. Whew, it's ambitious. Not to mention, earlier today, we talked about the fact that Walter Hamada said they're talking about running 2 separate Batman franchises at the same time. Okay. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. He's got a pretty good record so far. Look, when he took over the DCEU was on life support, man. And they've had a good number of wins, like a good number of solid wins. And so let's see where they go. But you're right, man. It needs to be consistently good. You can have the odd miss here and there. Like, listen, Wonder Woman to me was a miss. There are a lot of people who like it, and that's great. But to me, it was a bit of a miss, and that's fine. If you can get a Flash movie out and people really like it, and you get the Batman out, oh my God, you put out the Batman and you make sure that's great. You're putting a lot of your eggs in the Matt Reeves basket there. But if Batman ends up being great, oh, geez, man, you can write your own check. So it's okay if they have the odd miss here and there. If they can just keep up a good, consistent winning record, I think it could work out. But I'm not going to lie to you, man. I'm a little bit nervous about it. I am a little bit nervous about it. All right, next up. Tad's Dirty Keto Kitchen writes, I always get super nostalgic when you guys bring up Schnepp. Somebody just brought him up. In your Collider days, I was the one who won the New York City Comic-Con giveaway. Met Frosty and got to meet the great Schnepp. Bought 2 copies of his documentary and had him sign one. Plus, I love Metalocalypse. I mean, that's where a lot of people, like before he joined up with us at AMC, and then he came over with us to Collider. I mean, that's what Metalocalypse was, what Schnepp was really known for. He's the director of Metalocalypse. And That was kind of his claim to fame at that point. And then it's weird. He was a director of this niche but really popular animated series that a lot of people watched and liked. But he really kind of became a household name doing his YouTube thing. That's how good he was as a personality. You know, we talked a little bit earlier about that. Schnepp was that walking dichotomy of both being kind of having that encyclopedic knowledge while at the same time being the court jester. He was the scholar and the court jester. He had this big, larger than life personality, and it was infectious, man. It was absolutely infectious. Thanks for that, man. And I'm glad you have a couple copies of his great documentary. All right. An anonymous viewer writes in a $50 tip. Thank you, man, for supporting the channel on that level, dude. Seriously, thank you so much for that level of support. And anonymous writes, Happy New Year's Eve, John, Rob. New Year's Eve is tomorrow. Happy New Year, John, Rob, Aaron, crew, and community. Love you all from Ireland. Well, thanks so much for that. And listen, it gives me an excuse to do this again. We see a lot of tips. Like, part of the reason we're able to do the shows that we do, and we're able to have people like Ray and Rob and others and stuff like that, and do all the things that we do, is a big part of that. Obviously, our Patreons, our amazing Patreon supporters, but also you guys who send in these questions using the tip feature. And here's the thing. A lot of times we see this happen. We see anonymous. Now, anonymous automatically gets filled in there when people forget to put in their name. And I've been pointing this out lately, but just let me point it out again here for a second. So when you guys go over to, and this is how you can send in a tip to be read on one of the shows, www.streamlabs.com/movieblogtv/tip. Now, when you get there, you're going to see this form here. A lot of people instantly just plug in their tip amount and then write their tip message, their question. But they forget that above the tip amount is where you're supposed to put in your name. And I think a lot of people overlook that. And the reason why it's important to me is because if you're one of these people who are sending us these great fun questions to address, and you're supporting this channel and you're supporting our show, I want to make sure your name gets a shout out. So thank you so much for sending in the $50 tip. But you know, if in the future you do something like that again, please make sure you put in your name, because I want to give you a shout out for doing that. So anyway, thank you so much for the well wishes for the new year, and may you have a safe and fun New Year's Eve, whatever you're doing. Ann and I this year, doing the quarantine thing, we've ordered some steaks from Morton's Steakhouse. We're getting all fancy on our New Year's Eve. We've ordered some steaks from Morton's Steakhouse. We're just going to cuddle in, put on a good movie or two, hang out with our dogs, and just have a good night. That's going to be our New Year's this year. No worries, though, because next year, we're going to have to make up for lost time with next Year's Eve, right? So, guys, please be safe New Year's Eve, and you as well, Anonymous. And thanks again for supporting the channel on that level. All right, let's move on here. The Wakandan Forever writes, Don't listen to us, Patty. Make your movie. I hate saying that as a fellow film fan. What scares me, John, is we get another Rise of Skywalker situation. P.S. I'm an adult man, and Baby Yoda is why I watch Mandalorian. I am less excited for the show now. First of all, don't be less excited for Mandalorian. Baby Yoda will be back. I have nobody from Lucasfilm telling me that, but Baby Yoda will be back. Right? I said this before. I will remind us again. In that scene at the end of the finale, as Din is holding Baby Yoda, and he says, I will see you again, I promise. That wasn't just Din talking to Baby Yoda. That was Jon Favreau talking to us, the audience. That was Jon Favreau's way of saying to us, don't worry, everybody. We know half of you guys are here for Baby Yoda. He'll be back. He'll be back. Now, I don't know if Baby Yoda will be in 1 or 2 episodes next season, or if he'll be in the whole season. I know next season won't be about Baby Yoda like seasons 1 and seasons 2 were. Next season is going to be more about Mandalore, but I have zero doubt he will be back. All right, and next up we've got Wakandan Forever, who writes, Earth 2 2020 year in review. President Kanye West wins second term. Cats 2 breaks all-time box office records. Toronto Maple Leafs win Stanley Cup. Dude, that's not even Earth 2. That's like Earth 3,875. Earth 2 John sends his regards. Happy holidays. Here's to a better 2021. Keep it filthy. Wakanda forever. Yeah, I mean, listen. I mean, I don't want to jinx it, but how could 2021 be any worse than 2020? I mean, I'm looking forward to a new year, man. It's going to start off rough. New year is going to start off rough, but I think we've got better days ahead. I'm excited about it. Cannot wait to get 2020 in our rear view mirror. We're glad that you're along with us, Wakandan Forever. All right, Brendan M. tips in $20. Thank you, Brendan, for supporting the channel on that level, man. Brendan writes in, hi, John. Been watching since 2012. Thank you, dude. I appreciate that. The wife and I just had our first child. That is awesome. And you named him Luke. And we already sit and listen to your show together. I can't wait to really share my love for movies and shows with him in the coming years, which this show will be a part of. Dude, I don't know how you could say anything that would be more honoring. Seriously, that is awesome. And it reminds, I love that you named your kid Luke. Some really good friends of Ann and I had a kid just like 2 or 3 years ago, and they named him Obi. And yes, that is for Obi-Wan. They named him Obi. So I love hearing people name their kids Luke or Obi or whatever. That's awesome. Again, thank you for being along for such a long haul since, for 8 years. Dude, I really appreciate that. And thank you for allowing me to be a part of your family in that extended way. I really appreciate it, man. So thank you so much, dude. And may you guys have a wonderful New Year's together, my friend. All right, next up. Stubble McShave writes, I thought one of the most impressive parts of Soul was the animation of the protagonist playing the piano. The finger animation was so well done that you almost forget that it's not a real person playing. I will tell you what, I almost forgot everything else that was going on. The animation of the Jamie Foxx character playing, I think his name's Joe, the name of the character is Joe, playing the piano was incredible. Like absolutely incredible. As somebody who has worked professionally with CG artists and animators and stuff like that, I watched that and I'm like, how the hell, where have we come? How far have we come? Because I completely agree with you, Stubble. That was like one of the most jaw-dropping things I'd ever seen. I'm sure a lot of people didn't even notice. But for me, just the simple little thing of the animation of the fingers playing the piano in that was just, to me, just made my jaw drop, man. Absolutely made my jaw drop. All right. Next up, Anthony C. writes, hey, John, I've been watching your show for over a year now. Thanks a lot, Anthony. Good to have you here. And I find it great. I recently got a job at the Postal Service, so I love listening while delivering the mail. That's awesome, man. With the Christmas and COVID-19 packages combined, I find myself having no time to watch any movies. I get home tired, eat, sleep, repeat. I know you put in so much time and effort to your job, and although it's technically your job, how do you find the same time and energy to watch so many movies and shows? Thanks. Thanks a lot for that, man. I appreciate that. And the reality is, I don't have the time to watch as many movies, or I keep up with the movies better than I do with the TV shows. Like, there's a reason a lot of the times people will write in about certain shows and I say, I haven't had a chance to watch that yet. Because, a lot of hours in the day go into prepping the John Campea Show, which is a 2-hour daily show. And it just takes a lot of prep. And then these companion videos, which take a couple hours to do when we have these to do. And on top of all that, it's, we're buying a house and trying to move. And so I've had a really hard time lately, especially the last month or so. Like I still haven't watched I Am Heath Ledger. I was just talking about another movie that I really wanted to watch this holiday season, and I just never got around to it. Anyway, so I'm hoping to get caught up. But really, the one that suffers more is my ability to keep up with television shows. I give my priority for what time I do have to movies. And it has helped that Ann and I, for the last couple of years, have lived within a 10 to 15 minute walk of one of the best movie theaters in the country, the AMC Burbank 16 in downtown Burbank. We literally I want to go to a movie, just get my A-list card, walk out my door and walk 10 minutes up the road and I'm at the AMC Burbank 16. Boom. If I'm lazy, I want to drive, 3 minutes, I'm here. By the time I get out, drive down there, get through the traffic, park, and walk out, 5 minutes, I'm at the door. So that has certainly helped a great deal the last couple of years. But yeah, the thing that suffers the most for me is being able to keep up with a lot of TV. Because what free time I do have generally goes towards the movie. So I feel you, man. I do. But listen, thank you so much for making our making this show a part of your day. And, we've got another fan, in Canada who calls himself El Postino, who's the singing postie, the singing postman. So it's great to see that profession represented, man. So, hey, thank you for your service and getting the mail out to people. And thank you for being a part of our show, dude. I appreciate that, Anthony. All right, next up, Suthius writes, hey, guys. With how Soul ended, do you think, 1, Disney will produce a sequel, and 2, should Disney produce a sequel? With Disney/Pixar movie sequels being 5 to 15 years in between, I wouldn't be surprised to see a Soul 2 or even an Inside Out 2. I would love to. I don't think we will. I think, listen, Pixar is clearly not adverse to sequels, but you know, Peter Docter has been dropping a lot of hits that they're going to put more emphasis on original films. That doesn't mean we're never going to see sequels. Listen, I loved Inside Out. We don't need a sequel. I feel like that has been played out. Like the gimmick, and gimmick's not a dirty word, the gimmick of Inside Out was played. It was done. I don't feel like we need to revisit it. And the message of Soul was completed in Soul. I really don't feel like there's any need to do another one. So again, I do believe we will see some Pixar sequels. I think they'll happen now and again. But for the most part, if Peter Docter is to be believed, they really do want to focus making just original films. And if they do want to make some sequels like An Incredibles 3, I don't think films like Inside Out or Soul fall into that category. The message of Soul was made. And I don't think we will. But I really did enjoy the film, man. I totally enjoyed the film. So I do not think they will do a sequel to it, nor do I think that they will. So that's just kind of my thoughts on that. I just don't see anywhere really for it to go. Mysterious Gremlin writes, John, let's not forget, major spoiler warning, Cheetah actually got 2 wishes. One with the Wish Stone itself, and one with Maxwell Lord, who was the Wish Stone. Don't forget that. Maxwell Lord was, at that point, he was the Wish Stone. The question is, did she renounce both her wishes, or did she only renounce the one she got from Maxwell? Well, here's the thing. If she didn't renounce both wishes, then according to the lore in the movie, the effects of the stone would not be undone. Right? The only way the effects of the stone can be undone is if everybody unwishes their wishes. I've had a number of people writing to me last couple of days saying, oh, she had 2 wishes, so she only really had one renounced or recanted. But if that's the case, then the movie is contradicting itself when it said that all those who made wishes had to renounce their wishes. So it's a problem either way for the film. It's a problem both ways, like, which there's just no way around it. It creates a problem and a contradiction within the movie itself. So that's possible, but that doesn't solve anything. It actually just creates a new dilemma and problem with the movie. So how they're going to deal with that? Because remember, Patty Jenkins was just being interviewed, and she said there is a possibility that we're going to see Cheetah in the next Wonder Woman movie that takes place in modern time. That's 40 years later. So how are they going to explain, Barbara coming out being there 40 years later? We'll have to wait and see, but they do have some work to do because they created some inherent problems there. All right, next up, Blad Vader writes, with the vaccine taking months yet to get to the masses, do you think, as I do, that Black Widow will be a Disney Plus direct access movie as well as a theatrical release? I'm most looking forward to Suicide Squad. How about you? It's James Gunn. I'm desperately looking forward to Suicide Squad. Black Widow, no. Listen, Disney had the perfect opportunity. If Disney had any interest in making Black Widow a day and date premium release with some releases in theaters, if they had any interest in that at all, the Disney Investor Day event was the time to announce it. The very fact that they did not, I think, was them very clearly signaling that no, Black Widow is a theatrical release movie. Black Widow is a theatrical release movie. Now they listen, they could change their minds. We're all human. We can. But it seems to me, like I said, if there was any inkling for them that they could do it that way, then they would have announced that at that investors event. When you tell your investors, this is what we're doing with this movie, I think they're going to stick with it. I mean, look, circumstances could change, and as circumstances change, maybe what they plan on changing changes, but I have a feeling they're going to stick to theatrical with that. How long they'll stick to putting all these movies out in theatrical, well, I don't know, but I think, yeah. And remember, I thought that they, at the Investor Day announcements, I thought they were going to announce that Black Widow was going to go straight to Disney Plus. I really did think they were going to do that, and they didn't. And they sent a message. And I think that message is this particular movie is a theatrical movie, and we're going to hold to our guns on that. So that's what I think there. But again, that can change. That can change. All right. That Norwegian guy writes, as someone who really enjoyed the Uncharted games, I have no interest in the movie adaptation because the games themselves are very cinematic and feels like one big movie, and cutting that down to movie size is probably why many of those adaptations fail. Oh, I disagree with you on that. That's not why they fail. They fail. Listen, video game movies, for the most part, have sucked because they've been bad movies. They've just been, they have not done well. They have been poor movies. It's not because, it's this and the cut. I don't agree with that at all. I don't agree with that in the least. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think this Uncharted thing has a lot of potential. There are some very good people involved with that movie behind the camera. They've got a terrific cast. Sony has done some really great things lately. And so I think there's very good reason to be optimistic about it. And listen, there's nothing wrong with having no interest right now. I'd be curious, though, Norwegian guy. I would be curious to see where your interest level lies after a trailer comes out. I'll be curious to see where your interest is when a trailer comes out. Let's see where we're at then. Who knows? The trailer may come out, may be completely underwhelming, may have us all rolling our eyes, and there's that. Or maybe the trailer's awesome. And all of a sudden we're like, yes, please, give me some of that. I think it's going to be quite good. I'm excited about it. They got some very talented people, but could turn out to be a mess too, but we'll see how it turns out, man. Let's see what happens when those first pieces of promo start coming our way, which we might get, sooner or later. Because remember, they finished shooting the movie now. So maybe in the next few months, we could see our first look at it. All right. Wakandan Forever writes, Killmonger Wakanda never forgets. Just hop in the DeLorean and bring them all back. Apollo, Clubber Lang, Drago, Tommy Gunn, Mickey, Polly, and Adrian. My prediction for Creed 3, pain. Oh, that's the Clubber Lang line, of course. Have a great holiday, New Year 2021, Wakanda Forever. Yeah, I mean, look, so that comes from a discussion we were having the other day about they've confirmed now that Michael B. Jordan himself will be directing Creed 2. Or Creed 3, I should say. He's directing Creed 3. So 2 announcements, really. Creed 3 is happening. Michael B. Jordan is going to direct it. Now, there has been a lot of speculation. I don't believe it, but there is speculation out there that the next challenge that Adonis has to face was, he already did Drago's kid. Now he's got to face Clubber Lang's kid, Mr. T's kid, which I think is like, really? You've already kind of covered the whole facing off against one of Rocky's old, the kids of one of Rocky's old foes. We got to do it again. I don't think they'll do it. I don't think they'll do it, but you never know. It is all the whispers, and we'll see what happens. All right. Last question of the day. This one comes to us from Make Troopers Great Again, who writes, Empire off screen, conquers and eventually glasses Mandalore. Season 1 of The Mandalorian kills off most of the Mandalorian clan on Navarro. Empire on screen, 1 Mandalorian and a lightly armored civilians, hundreds of dead stormtroopers and Imperial personnel. I'm not sure I followed that. Let me try it again. Empire off screen, conquers and eventually glasses Mandalore. Season 1 of Mandalorian kills off most of the Mandalorian clan on Navarro. Empire on screen, 1 Mandalorian and a few lightly armed civilians, hundreds of dead stormtroopers and Imperial personnel. Question mark. Again, listen, the one, as great as the final episode of Mandalorian season 2 was, and it was great, but there was some eye-rolling elements to it as well. There was some significant eye-rolling elements to that as well. The biggest one to me, I know it's a joke that stormtroopers can't hit anything, but there comes a point where it just becomes ridiculous. There are several parts in that episode where all these stormtroopers are chasing our 4 female heroes, down a corridor, down a hallway, 4 of them, with a bunch of stormtroopers behind them, shooting down a straight hallway, and they can't hit any of them. I don't understand how you would have 5 or 6 guys shooting guns down a hallway at 4 targets in a confined hallway and miss. You know what kind of skill you would have to volley down 40 or 50 blasts and none of them hits a target? That was eye-rolling. Like, I get it. There's the whole running Star Wars joke. Stormtroopers can't hit anything. By the way, the first lie Obi-Wan ever told Luke wasn't anything. The real first lie, because, it depends on your point of view, was when he said, these blast marks, too accurate for sand people. Only Imperial troopers are so precise. Lie. But anyway, that was just too much. Like, I'm watching, when that scene was happening, it was actually taking me out of the show, because I'm like, oh, come on. It was bad, man. That was bad. Come on, let's start giving some stormtroopers a little bit of love here, right? Let's give them, they're supposed to be these trained soldiers. Let's give them a little bit of dignity. Just a little bit of dignity. All right, I said that was the last one. Let's do one more here, then we'll wrap it up here. Wiz R74 writes, Sonic the Hedgehog is the highest grossing superhero film of 2020. Well, it's really not a superhero film. It's really more of a video game movie. It's a video game movie, not a superhero movie. And it's funny, it's funny you wrote that in, because we talked about that on the show today. Because somebody wrote in and asked, everybody knows video game movies suck and comic book movies are all the rage right now. But 2020 was a year where a video game movie was better than any comic book movie came out. We had 4 proper traditional comic book movies come out. We had Bloodshot. We had Harley Quinn and the fabulous, Birds of Prey. We had New Mutants, and we had Wonder Woman 84. And we were like, wait, yeah, was the video game movie better than all of them? And listen, that's a subjective opinion thing, but yeah, for me and my money, Sonic was actually better than any comic book movie that came out this year. Now, of course, there were a couple of high-profile comic book movies that didn't get a chance to come out this year that maybe and probably would have been better than Sonic, but 2020 will be a year where a video game movie was better than any comic book movie that came out. I don't think it'll happen again, but it happened in 2020. All right, guys, listen. For everybody else, from Jesse, Man of Tomorrow, Ernest, don't worry. We will start off the live questions part of the show tomorrow with your questions. Well, the ones we will start off with, and hopefully we'll get all caught up by the end of tomorrow's show. Guys, thank you for being here and being a part of the show today. And special thank you to all you guys who did send in those questions. Number 1, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number 2, because you supported this channel while you did it. And all of us here involved with the John Campea channel, thank you guys very, very much for that support. Guys, please remember, there's still, I know the vaccine's coming, but it's still, I just found out today, like, a number of people I know passed away. And there was even like a member of government, there was a Republican 41-year-old dude just elected to Congress. He hadn't taken office yet, but just elected to Congress, 41 years old, and he died of COVID. Guys, we're still in the middle of a lot of spikes, so please do the 4 main things. Stay smart, stay safe, take care of yourselves, and please take care of the people around you. There is light at the end of the tunnel. Guys, thank you so much for the honor of being a part of the audience here today. My name is John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.